Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're trying a bit of an experiment with a blue-white deck. So as you may have realised, combo is everywhere in legacy. It's about 40% of the meta roughly. So one of the problems with trying to beat combo decks is counter spells and stuff just don't really work quite often. So the Oops or Spells decks can have like a Pact backup, which only works on their turn, but that's all they need it for. So it shuts down counter spells. Show and Tell decks have Mistrise Village. There's lots of various problems, even things like Defense Grid is a worry, and Veil of Summer out of the Epic Storm. There's a whole bunch of ways that people are getting around counterspells. What you normally find is that when you're playing some sort of blue-white deck, you want some permanent-based answers. Like your Null Rods and your Curse Tomes and all that sort of jazz. Well, what if we had Null Rod and Curse Tome on a creature? So we're playing Clarion Conqueror, a new card from Tarkir Dragonstorm, 3 mana 3/3, and it Null Rods artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers. So this is going to be a win condition that can also jam our opponent up in a big way, so it's going to be useful in the combo decks matchups. We also have Meddling Mage. Now this is a card that doesn't see that much play. You occasionally see it in the sideboard, but against combo decks, being able to say you can't cast Show and Tell means that you can ignore their Mistrise Village and just carry on with your life. This card is, beating down for 2 on an empty board. That's fine. Maybe it's a little bit too cute, but we're going to see. We're hoping that we can beat all the mid-range decks with a combination of Swords to Plowshares and Prismatic Endings, as well as, our counter spells here and there. And we have stock up to go over the top and overpower them. Another new card we have is Roiling Dragonstorm. This is 1 and a blue enchantment. When it enters, you draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Whenever a dragon you control enters, you bounce this to your hand. So we have Clarion Conqueror and Murktide Regent to bounce the Roiling Dragonstorm. Because this discards a card, it means that we can try and make our Murktide Regent come down a bit quicker, and it's also just a blue card for Force of Will. We've got the usual cantrips that you would expect. We've got ourselves a couple of Daze and some Spell Piercers as additional counter magic. I don't know if we need more removal than this, but hopefully this should be enough. But this is what we're trying to test today. We're doing a little bit of an experiment. In the mana base we have 3 Wastelands, we have the 4th in the board, we have a Meticulous Archive and Mystic Sanctuary and the ability to play on basics. We have a couple of Volcanic Islands for sideboard cards. Those sideboard cards are Pyroblast. Just a very good card to have access to at the moment, so I'd very much like to have some of those. The rest of our sideboard, we've got some more Hate Bear pieces. So like I said, permanent pieces of interaction is what we want here, and we're trying to test out. So Containment Priest, great against Show and Tell, great against Reanimator decks. A couple of Force of Negation for those sort of combo decks, and then a combination of Hydroblasts to go with our Pyroblast, and some Consign to Memories for the colourless decks. We have a 1 of Lavinia, which can come in and jam up some of the decks that try and play a bunch of zeros. And that, lovely people, is the deck tech. Is this deck perfect? Certainly not. But it's going to be a first sort of step in an experiment to see if these sorts of cards can work together. Yes, I've been playing a bit of pre-modern lately where people are just jamming main deck Meddling Mages, and it really gave me the thirst to try that in Legacy. Okay, please like and subscribe, and if you need any cards for a deck that looks anything like this, or perhaps doesn't look like this, why not check out 3-for-1 Trading? Their link is in the description, and they support the Legacy community, so it's really important that we try and support them back by giving them a few sales here and there. Alright, plug over and done with. Let's jam some good old-fashioned blue-white. For the best Eternal experience this summer, check out Eternal Mania in Hasselt, Belgium from August 8th to 10th. Aside from hosting the European Legacy Masters, they have a whole host of other tournaments from team trios to old school and pre-modern. I will be there playing Legacy and hanging out as a special guest. This will also be the first event that I'll be giving out my own special Marit Lage tokens, so why not come down to enjoy an awesome weekend ran by one of the best TOs in Europe. Our opener requires a little bit of work here. I believe in the power of Brainstorm. I will keep this one. So next turn we can try and Brainstorm and see if we can hit something else. Inquisition of Kozilek. Alright, we are going to respond to the Inquisition of Kozilek with an island, because we want to get this Brainstorm off. Okay, we have a problem. We have a problem. So, what do we not want to lose here? We could have got the Tundra and played into Wasteland here. So we're going to hide the Force of Will on top. What is the other card we're hiding? I think it's a Plow. This has not gone ideally for us right now. Not finding a land or a ponder on the top 3 is a little bit unfortunate for us. I took the stock up. That means they're trying to play for a long game, which probably favours us. Our deck is relatively well equipped to play a long game. Obviously we don't know what's in our opponent's deck. They could be like an Esper deck with a bunch of good card advantage options. So now we're going to draw the Plow. And we hope the top card of our library is a Ponder or a Brainstorm. Or a land. I'll take a land. We haven't actually had to use any white mana yet, so this isn't too bad for us. They're bidding off a swamp. That might mean that they have no basic swamps in their deck. That might be the only one left. But we'll see. Is this Flooded Strand getting them white mana? It is. Okay, so we are looking at some sort of Esper pile. What is this going to be? A stock up. Do I want to interact with this? I don't think so. It is awkward for us. We might have quite a lot of overlap in our deck, so the Meddling Mage might be an interesting one. Oh, look at that. A Ponder. Are you kidding me, deck? Any order, shuffle. You are kidding me. Alright. We'll get rid of a Murktide Regent. Sometimes you'll keep a hand and you just won't find the lands. And that is Magic the Gathering. We've got 17 mana producing lands in our deck. Obviously we have Wastelands as well, but very much odds on. Okay, so they're already doing the whole stocking up for victory type thing. They're going to ponder into it. Our opponent is like a million miles ahead of us right now. But maybe the Meddling Mages can allow us to cheese them in some way, shape or form. I ponder. So this is going to ponder them into that stock up, which I imagine they're going to cast as well. Also lets them get some of the other cards from the ponder without having to take them all. A Tamiyo. If we find a white mana source, we can answer the Tamiyo. So I think we just let the Tamiyo happen. We also have the Clarion Conqueror, which is an answer for Tamiyo. If it lives. Which is not always how things are going to be. A Wasteland, you say. Not the one I wanted. We can take our opponent off of white mana, though. We can do that before we play the Clarion Conqueror. But I'm not just going to fire this off immediately. What I don't want to see here is a Kaito. Now, Clarion Conqueror can check the Kaito. Alright. No Kaito, that's good news. It's just a more difficult permanent to interact with. Sure, ponder. So they can crack this clue and transform the Tamiyo if they wish. And then we can try and draw a plains and prismatic ending it. So I'm not too bothered by the Tamiyo. The extra clue, giving them some card advantages, a bit more annoying. But we are quite far behind in this game. Thoughtseize. Interesting. I don't want them to take some of these cards from our hand. This is such a horrible exchange for us if we Force of Will this, though. I guess we're just going to let this go. This feels pretty bad. So they can take one of our answers to a Tamiyo if they wish. Or they can take the Force of Will and know that anything they do will resolve. It's just not a good sign for us right now. They took the ending, which is the cleanest answer to the Tamiyo. They know the coast is clear to just transform. And that's what they're going to do. And now we're under the Tamiyo clock. Okay. I think this is just going to be a non-game. Swords to Plowshares. Alright, I'm just going to scoot this one up and value our time. It's not really very fun for you to watch me lose this game that slowly. Alright. So, I don't believe this is a matchup where we're going to need Force of Wills. Our opponent's mana base does look a little bit vulnerable, but I would like some Pyroblasters here. Don't want Consigns, not really. I'll take a Wasteland here. They are 3 colours, we can maybe keep them off of some stuff. Don't want a Lavinia, it beats down and it can mess with our opponent a little bit. It's probably better than a Daze here. I could take out this Daze and just get a Containment Priest, but I don't think the Containment Priest is going to be that useful against what our opponent's doing. But it's just having a creature with flash that can pressure good enough. It might be. Let's try Containment Priest. I think our opponent is favoured here because they have tools like Thoughtseize. So they're dipping into black in quite a nice way. If they have Kaito, that's a potential problem card. Now we do have the Clarion Conqueror, which is supposed to help with that. And we do have Pyroblast, so we're not just stone cold dead to it, like you sometimes find, but it's not going to be ideal for. Okay, we've got Stock Up, we've got Spell Pierce. We can keep this, we can play on some basics. So this would have to get us the island. So play this one out first. I will Spell Pierce a discard effect, but it's just a ponder, so I'll let that ride. I could go and get a Meticulous Archive. I don't know if I want to be doing that right now, though. We don't have a turn 2 play yet. I'm just worried a little bit about getting hit on lands. Maybe we should just go and get the Meticulous Archive. And just play off for Tundra with this one. A basic island. We don't really need that right now. A Wasteland. Okay, so we can get some Wasteland cheese action going. That makes our Spell Pierce stronger as well. Nothing from our opponent here. Another Spell Pierce. Alright, let's Wasteland this, and they're going to cast a Orcish Bowmasters, I imagine. There it is. Okay, so our card draw spell doesn't actually draw us cards, so this is fine for us. For now, at least. And then we can sit behind these Spell Pierces. Take a little bit of damage from these. I think that's reasonable to do. Polluted Delta. If this wants to get them a white source, they have to get a non-basic. If our opponent has things like Spell Pierces, we probably want to play around them as much as we can using the stock up. A Tamiyo, sure. Inquisition of Kozilek, let's say no to this one. So we could Brainstorm here, which I think is probably not a great idea due to the Orcish Bowmaster. We could try and stock up. If our opponent has a counterspell for it, it could be a little bit annoying. But I think we're going to go for the stock up here. Let's get another Tundra here. Our opponent shouldn't have a lot of counter magic. Most of the counter magic they have should be 1-for-1 counter magic. Alright. So, Swords to Plowshares and Clarion Conqueror both feel pretty good here. So we can shut off the clues and the backside of the Tamiyo here. We can answer the Orcish Bowmaster. If our opponent misses on a land drop, then we can jump on that with our Wasteland. We can Clarion Conqueror, holding up Spell Pierce and Plow. 3 mana, a Barrow Goyf. Alright, we have a different target that I'm interested in ploughing here. Let's plough this first. And do I want to stick this Clarion Conqueror? Are we in that stage of the game? Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand. They haven't used any removal yet. We could just stick a big friend here. But we don't get to keep up Spell Pierce and do that because this is blue-blue. So if we want to keep up the Spell Pierce, we have to just pass this turn. I think I'm okay making a big Murktide Regent here. It's not even going to be that big, is it? Do I want to... No, we're going to have to get rid of the stock up here. We could leave it in there for taking some other stuff. We've seen our opponent has got a 3rd colour. Do we save this Wasteland for the 3rd colour? I think that's more important than taking off their 3rd mana source. So we now have the biggest thing on the board. I suspect it's going to be removed relatively swiftly, but we'll see. So next turn we can play Clarion Conqueror holding up Spell Pierce. And that can shut down these objects. A Sheoldred's Edict. Right, we'll lose the guy we have. We've got a land to crack one of these clues. Mystic Sanctuary, we can worry about that later. Okay, Clarion Conqueror, please. Biggest thing on the board, it shuts off a bunch of their things. We're going to take out one of their lands now because we want our Spell Pierce to be live here. And by shrinking the amount of lands I have when we know they've been missing lands for a couple of turns, it feels like a good place to be. I would like to get rid of this Bowmaster so I can use my Brainstorm. We do have a lot of removal in our deck. I'm sure we'll draw into it at some point. We can also draw into a stock up and dig for it. A Thought Seize. Do I care about preserving the information in my hand? I think it's worth it. If we can clear this Bowmaster, I would very much like to have a Brainstorm. And if the Spell Pierce is relevant, they'll take it anyway. So we may as well just protect our hand for information. Yep, Brainstorm's very good for our opponent. They transform their Tamiyo. They can't activate it while the Clarion Conqueror's in play, but they could dig their way into a plow here and put us in the dirt. I think our opponent's deck is more tuned to playing this matchup than ours is. We're more tuned to beating combo decks. That's what we are here to do. A Meddling Mage. Right, let's attack this Tamiyo. Just make sure it's gone. Let's play a Meddling Mage. I don't really want to get the Spell Pierce back, so I'm not going to Mystic Sanctuaries. What am I most worried about? I don't really like this Orcish Bowmaster. I don't really want them to have more of those. It's a nice thing to not have to worry about. Brainstorm, sure. Because we have to pick a card that we also don't have, because we don't want to make our draws worse. This is definitely one of the matchups where we've sacrificed some of our better elements to be better against the combo decks. Right, we've got a Polluted Delta being cracked over there. And another Brainstorm. Opponent's seen a lot more cards than us so far. But we are technically ahead on board. It doesn't take much for this to start falling apart though. Source to Plowshares on the Clarion Conqueror. So that unlocks their clue tokens. A Roiling Dragonstorm. Now, we could have had a 4th stock up in the deck, but I wanted to test this card out. And now this feels bad because it draws cards. Which is not a thing we want to do right now. I don't think attacking works out here for us. They're definitely not going to block. And then that damage race does not favour us. Inquisition of Kozilek. Sure. I did consider putting some Path to Exile to have like another answer for Orcish Bowmasters in my deck, but that is not the world we're living in. They took the Roiling Dragonstorm rather than a Brainstorm. That is interesting. Please attack with the Orcish Bowmasters. They did not attack with the Orcish Bowmasters. A Ponder. I think a Ponder is worth casting. They get to ping 1, but pinging for 1 is fine when we have a 2-2. Pyroblast, Brainstorm, Wasteland. This is in any order in shuffle, I think. We found the Plow. They're pinging us rather than the Meddling Mage. Alright, I would like to plow away this Bowmaster. Then I would like to Brainstorm while the getting's good. I will take this Wasteland right now. Try and shut my opponent off of white mana. I don't really want to have to plow an Orc Army token. I'd rather save it for like a Bowmasters or something. But we can put the Ponder on top. And then shuffle away that Tundra. It's kind of a bit of a slow way of doing things, but I think it's fine. If we get to a situation where we have to, we obviously can plow this. A Nile Spellbomb. Alright. That was not the order of operations I would have liked to have seen here. Right, they're going to take this Ponder out so we don't get it back with the Sanctuary. They are indeed. If we're not blocking with a Meddling Mage, we should be attacking with it. We are currently behind. We can obviously clean this up, but our opponent has 4 cards in hand as well. The Wasteland's preying on our opponent's mana base is doing some work for us. Feels like they're pretty much just splashing for Plow at this point. They might have some sideboard cards like Containment Priest and Lavinia that they're also playing. Okay, another Tundra. We're about to draw a Tundra. A Barrow-Goyf. Sure. I don't believe they would have boarded in Force of Vigor. So I will plow this in our opponent's turn. We've got plenty of mana to pay for any weird soft mission, although our opponent doesn't look like they're running soft mission. So we draw the Tundra. We keep this in hand for the purposes of Brainstorm. We chip our opponent down a bit more. Kind of hoping that our opponent's hand is just nothing but Bowmasters. And that the old Meddling Mage is doing all the work for us. Another Barrow-Goyf. Another Barrow-Goyf. Sure. A Volcanic Island. That is not the one. We have to chump block this turn. If we try and trade with the Orc Army, we immediately die to an Orcish Bowmaster that has probably been stranded in our opponent's hand. So I think we have to chump block the Barrow-Goyf. It also stops our opponent from drawing a card. But I believe we are cooked. This is not the sort of matchup I want to play. Another Nile Spellbomb. It's just a perfectly serviceable cantrip. Murktide Regent. We can make a 4/4. I don't think that's good enough. I don't think chump blocking for a turn matters here. We're just going to scoop it up. Yeah, not really the sort of matchup that we're aiming to play into. We're trying to hit that 40% combo matchup, and I think we should be alright into like the sort of mid-rangier non-blue decks. But our opponent's deck is kind of just a version like ours, but built more towards smashing up the mirror, because they've got a lot more of these good like 1-for-1 interaction pieces instead of like 2-for-1s. Alright, let's go to round 2. The lovely people over at 3-for-1 Trading are doing a spring sale from May 7th to May 12th. Get 5% off of all orders over $500 with free worldwide shipping by using the code SPRINGSALE25. Their support helps make this channel viable for me, so support them by clicking the link in the description of this video to browse their enormous inventory and find whatever you need for your Magic collection. We will not keep this one, it doesn't have a cantrip, so let's mulligan. Alright, this is fine. I think we can put away the Meticulous Archive and have that as a thing we grab later on. We have the ability here to play on basics. I'm just going to play out the Flooded Strand for now. I don't necessarily know what we're pondering on looking for. We've already got our lands underneath us. Is this a removal matchup? Is this a counter magic matchup? We honestly don't know. We can brainstorm in an emergence if we need to anyway. So I think this is a reasonable setup. A Savannah. Okay. An Exploration. Okay. Do you know what is really good against Life from the Loam? The old Meddling Mage. There's a Wasteland. Okay. So we're playing on basics is what you're telling me here. I don't know if I want to just run out the Meddling Mage straight away. I think we can maybe fire off a Brainstorm or hold the Spell Pierce. I would like to protect the Meddling Mage if our opponent does have like one of their Swords to Plowshares. An Urza's Saga. Sure. That is a little bit of an annoying one, but we do have Wastelands in our deck. We can go look for them. A Sylvan Library. I'm going to say no thank you to that one. And then they play the Wasteland afterwards. That is unfortunate for our opponent. Sphere of Resistance. Sure. Can we draw a Wasteland? We did not draw a Wasteland. Okay. So you can spend 2 mana looking for a Wasteland for this. I think that's worth. These are not Wastelands in any order of shuffle. Did not find the Wasteland. We can play this out and it'll just get Wastelanded. I don't think that's where I want to be. Might have a bit of trouble into the old lands. Again, this is not really the sort of matchup that we try to gear our deck towards. Force of Will. Life from the Loam, please. So they're going to make a 2-2 that then becomes a 3-3, then becomes a 4-4. So we're going to need to find an answer for this construct token. Expedition map. Yep, that can find answers to varying problems our opponent may have. A blast zone, they can take this up to 2 without take out their own sphere. And I think they'd probably just rather keep this around for later. I should take 4. We're going to need to find an answer to some creatures. If we can answer one of them, it does shrink the other one. Are they going to Wasteland us here? Or are they going to crack the Expedition map? Those are pretty much the 2 options our opponent has here. They've gone for the Wasteland. Can't fault them for that. We have a Wasteland of our own. It is a little bit late, unfortunately. I guess the step 1 is probably Brainstorm here. Double Wasteland. We can kind of strand our opponent underneath their own sphere. That's an interesting idea. I would like to shuffle some cards because I don't want to have to draw. I need to see some fresh cards to deal with these bodies. So we're putting some cards back. We're just putting back some forces. I think we put back the Force and the Daze, weirdly. Which means we have to use this Misty Rainforest as a shuffle effect. And we're going to take 8 on the next turn. Because our opponent will crack this after they've attacked. Or they might just leave it in play. But we have like the next Urza Saga covered. But the problem we have right now is the construct tokens. We were a little bit slow finding the Wasteland. And we're probably going to pay for it now. Right, we have this covered, so that's something. Another Wasteland. Okay, understood. Do I need the mana for this for something or not? I think I'm okay to Meticulous Archive and just burn off one of our opponent's Wastelands. It's not pretty, but we have a lot of lands in hand. Let's get the Archive. A Murktide Regent. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is big enough to tangle with this. They're going to Wasteland us, though. So we have to decide if we want to answer the Saga or make a guy here. If we don't answer this Saga now, they're going to get 1 more construct. That is a problem. So if we Wasteland here, then we're going to have to chump block anyway. Okay, I think we're playing the Murktide Regent out. So they get 1 construct out of this, and then we blow it up with the Wasteland. Are we attacking with this? We're going to go to 1. No, I think I'm going to be a coward and keep this back. Just in case they find like another artifact and we have to do some more blockings. I'm putting a counter on the blast zone. So they can use this to take out our Meddling Mage, but they'll also hit their sphere. But it will unlock their Life from Alone, which is probably something they're quite looking forward to having access to. Right, the Wasteland, that is not a surprise. Are they going to force through damage here? No. Alright, the Murktide Regent has done its job. So far, at least. I ponder. I am interested in pondering. Am I more interested in brainstorming? I think I'm more interested in pondering here because I quite like the cards we have in our hand. A Meddling Mage is whatever. A Source of Plowshares is pretty good though, as is the the Meddling Mage is fine. Actually, yeah. So they're going to get one construct out of the Saga. So they're going to force us to chump with the Meddling Mage pretty soon. If they send all three in, we have to chump block here. Wait, if they just crack this, if they have the mana to crack this, it's 3 though. So they shouldn't have the mana to crack that. Mox Diamond. Okay, so this makes them 6/6s. That is a very annoying power and toughness, given our current board. Our opponent found the turn them all sideways button. Alright, let's go to the sideboard. What looks good here? Not the most amount of things, I'm being honest. I like another Wasteland. I think Consign to Memories have some use here. Lavinia stops Mox Diamonds. That's about it. It's not really what I'm about. Hydroblast don't do anything here. Force of Negation is better than Force of Will for the most part here. Force of Wills just aren't very good. The Dazes are very bad, so get those out. It basically all just came down to we were too slow getting our Wasteland there. That was the real problem. So, we trimming a Spell Pierce or a Force of Will? I think we're trimming a Spell Pierce here. We could just play like a bunch of bodies to pressure our opponent. That is also a fine option here. This hand does not really enjoy getting Wastelanded, so I'm going to mulligan this one. This hand can deal with Wastelands. I think we're just going to put back the Force. We don't have a blue card to go with it. Meticulous Archive, let's just start this running. If our opponent wants to Wasteland this, it's not the end of the world. Yes, I would love my card that stops them playing things like Life from Alone. There's a Wasteland. We're just going to go back to square one. We are, but we have the ability to play on basics here. So this gets us our island, this gets us the plains. And then we can Meddling Mage on Life from Alone. We already have the Wasteland for the as a Saga, which is basically the thing that beat us last time. We get to shut this off with our Clarion Conqueror. An Ancient Tomb, you say. A Sphere of Resistance. You got it, boss. So I'm going to get a white source here. And a blue source. And we can do the removal of this using the Prismatic Ending. We can do the trick. So this makes our spell cost 1 more. This doesn't count, it doesn't really care what you've done to cast it. It just cares about the colours we've spent. So we get to remove this without actually having to worry too much. We could have left that in play and gone after the Mox Diamond. That would have been an interesting approach. 3 mana. Just a loam. It is a loam. So we're going to get back a land and a Wasteland. Is this going to be a basic or not? It's not. We're pretty close to stranding them from green mana here. Sylvan Library is very good though. Okay. I don't think trying to cut our opponent off of green this turn is where I want to be. I think it's going to be Meddling Mage, name Life from Alone. And then we know they have a Wasteland in hand, so we don't want to play this Tundra out. If I play this Wasteland out and they immediately there's a Saga, it's going to really, really suck. Does that mean we're just supposed to hold this one? I think so. We could have played it out, but then our opponent gets a chance to Wasteland this, so we don't get to Wasteland the juicy thing that we want to. They do have this Life from Alone going. We can ending it next turn. So if our opponent plays like a Saga this turn. Okay, so they can play multiple lands. Sure. There is the Saga that we kept the Wasteland for. We are rewarded for our decision making. Maze of Ith is a little bit irritating, but we'll live with it. Right, Wasteland. Let's get rid of this Saga. Am I getting rid of the Mox Diamond? No, I'm going to get rid of the Sylvan Library. Alright, we're doing a good job here. Meddling Mage really holding back the tide and stopping this Life from the Loam doing anything. Next turn we play the Clarion Conqueror. That shuts off the Mox Diamond. And gives us the ability to actually put some damage through this Maze of Ith. There's a Wasteland. Another Saga. Okay, that is a problem for us. A Soul Guide Lantern is whatever. Like, yes, it can shrink our potential Murktides. Or stop us being able to play one. That is not ideal for us. But I imagine they're just going to, yeah, they're just drawing with it straight away. Wasteland, please. I would like to order a Wasteland. We did not get a Wasteland. I will have a dragon. Okay, there's no point attacking here. Our opponent's just going to maze it. It's not worth my time or my opponents to make them click through it here. Now, if they had something that made this produce mana, then I would obviously make them spend the mana. But as it stands, it's not really worth our time. Okay, so they're going to start making some guys. Thespian Stage, so they can make an Urza Saga that never goes away. That sounds like something that will beat us if we don't wasteland it immediately. So this makes a 2-2. So they could trade this with the Meddling Mage. So attacking with the Clarion Conqueror here is just going to get mazed. Yep. Alright, so we're going to get ourselves a Tundra. Play another Clarion Conqueror. We can double block and kill a Saga. But we need our opponent to not find more Urza Sagas. So this is going to be a 4-4. So we double block with the Clarion Conquerors. We trade one Conqueror for a Construct, and then the other Clarion Conqueror can trade with a Construct if we feel that's necessary. But if they just go in for the Thespian Stage line here, which is what they're doing, that means that we are very much trying to draw a Wasteland. Because we have basics on our side of the field they can turn it into a Boseiju. Alright. I think we can take 3 this time. Because we can always just trade one for it later with a double block. Can I find a Wasteland? My kingdom for a Wasteland. Like, we can cantrip our way there as well. Oh, we found the Wasteland. That is perfect news. Right, so we have the better clock now. We have this stinky Force of Will in our hand. Maybe it would have been better just to be some guy. Alright, they've dredged the Life from the Loam, so they've got a plow here. This is an issue for us. But the Ancient Tomb is not the freest thing for them to tap in the world. Do I want to trade here? I don't think so. I think we need to try and push the damage through. And maybe get some sort of Prismatic Ending to shut this down. Or like a Wasteland to stop our opponent getting the constructs going. So they have Thespian Stage and Dark Depths as well. Which is a whole other thing. I feel we are in trouble. So these like lands decks tend to chew up and spit out any sort of control-y deck once the games go long. Because the control decks tend not to interact with their permanent types. And as you can see, it's basically just Urza Saga soloing us over and over again. Okay, a Wasteland, we're going to lose our Tundra, I suspect. No? I'm doing it now. Interesting timing. A Swords 2 Plowshares. Okay. Tap the creatures, force 3/3 damage. So we need 2 more turns. So next turn we take 4 damage. The turn after we take 10 damage. So that's lethal. That is awkward. But we might be able to find just a guy that can get in the way. If I tap this Ancient Tomb, it is very handy for us. Right, they're loaming back Yavimaya and a Wasteland. And a Dark Depths. Okay. So they probably don't need to tap this Ancient Tomb. But they are representing a Meticulous Archive here. Now, we can blow up the Meticulous Archive token. Our opponent does get 20 life though. Interesting timing. They're playing around Wasteland, but if we draw a Prismatic Ending now, it's lights out. So close. So close. They can just do this every single turn. This is a problem. I guess we don't have much choice. Yep. So now our opponent is at 20. If we drew the Prismatic Ending, we just win that turn though. So we definitely had some game. It didn't work out for us. I think if you want to be better against a matchup like this, you want to have some kind of way of stopping all their non-basics. So you could run Blood Moon because we're splashing red. You could run... I don't think Back to Basics works for us here. But you could run some Disruptive Flute and like shut off the scary things, like whether that's going to be Wasteland or just as a Saga. Alright. They're dredging back their combo. They're deploying a Saga. So now they've got a 4-4 and they're going to have 5-5s next turn. Don't think we can win this one. Let's take on the draw and see if we can find anything. Alright, Ponder. Ponder, stock up. This isn't going to do anything. Okay, we can permanently get rid of the... If we permanently get rid of the loam, how useful is that? Are we just dead to this other Saga already? I don't think we need to keep playing this one. I'm going to scoop this one up. Yeah, we're really not finding the matchups we want to be going into. So I think we're going to be pretty good into like tempo, cradle control, sort of like mid-range decks like that. And then we're going to be really good into combo decks, which is why I've tried to do this. But sometimes the matchups won't provide. And because, you know, the format has got a lot of different archetypes in, it does mean that building a deck like this is going to come into some problems here. And we're at least seeing that we're going to need something else for lands if we do another iteration of this deck. And that is good to know. All right, on to round 3. All right, welcome to round 3. We have an Island Ponder start. We will need to ponder in some land, but I think that's pretty reasonable to do. We need to try and work out what our opponent's doing so we can get the best Meddling Mage action we can. Would like to be able to remove this as well. I think I'm just going to ponder off this Tundra. No, we're probably just going to be fetching on basics anyway. I like the Source Plowshares. Murktide Regent is a problem for later, so we'll pop the Brainstorm on top and put the Plow in hand. We could have put the Plow another card down. Put it on top of the library so that we have nothing that can get disrupted, but our opponent isn't a hand disruption deck. Okay, so we're looking at Cloud Post, I believe. So the Wasteland obviously good here. So we could just Wasteland our opponent and then Plow their guy. That's not a bad way to approach this one. I'll just play out the Wasteland here. We can hold up Spell Pierce for something like a One Ring if we need to. But if they go and fetch something at end of turn, we can see what they fetched and then we can remove their creature. Yeah, so now they're sort of in this little holding pattern where they've just got to hold this guy up the whole time. Playing a Nexus. Another Reclaimer. Not in love with seeing that. I think I'm going to Force of Will this because we've already got a lot of pressure placed on this single Plow. Right, let's Plow this now. I don't believe they're going to have a Jury Step if they're playing Cloud Post. That's not normally part of their toolbox, but they can go and get something here and then we can decide what we're doing with our Wasteland on our next turn. We will be drawing the Murktide Regent on top. And they're getting rid of a Glimmer Post. Probably going to be an Urza's Tower, I would imagine. Yeah. So we need to make a decision about what we're hitting here, whether we're hitting the Nexus or the Tower. Okay, I think this is a Brainstorm turn. We do not require double Murktide Regent. Big fan of having this Wasteland though. How do I feel about the Meddling Mage? I'm not so big into the Meddling Mage now that we have the Clarion Conqueror, which can kind of cover a lot of our bases. So I'm going to put this away. And then we're going to... Wasteland the Tower. And then we can go and fetch in our end step. Or sorry, in their end step. And get a Meticulous Archive. Or we can fetch to Spell Pierce if they're going to like play the One Ring or something this turn. A Bajuka Bog. Alright, that is pretty good against our little Murktide Regent. But I don't seem to have anything else going on here. Let's go and find our Meticulous Archive. Let's work towards another Murktide Regent. Are we looking at doing... I don't think we're looking at doing Source to Plowshares right now. I think that stage of the game has gone. We got rid of their little guys. And now we're just powering up to this Clarion Conqueror. Right, I'm just going to play the Conqueror, I think. Play out the Wasteland in case we draw another Wasteland and we're able to double Wasteland our opponent, but this will shut off Karn and the One Ring from our opponent as well as the Reclaimers. It means they can't tap their Dryad Arbor for mana, which is quite funny. Alright, we'll just start the attacks now. I'll deploy Polluted Delta. I don't know if I want to be Wastelanding this Planar Nexus yet. Because at present they haven't got a lot going on. They're going to nip in for 1 damage? No. Are they realising that they can't tap their Dryad Arbor here? They're casting a Crop Rotation. Sure. So this is probably going to be for the Urza's Tower. So if they play the One Ring here, that doesn't matter too much. We can still counter it if we want to, because how much use are we getting out of the Spell Pierce? It's also going to get us towards the Murktide Regent. But they won't be able to activate it because of our Clarion Conqueror. But if they pass here, then we get a shot to Wasteland something. 5 mana. Is this going to be a Kozilek's Command? They could try and Kozilek's Command away our Clarion Conqueror to open up a One Ring for future turns. There it is. Let's Spell Pierce this. Spell Pierce coming against the big mana deck. Nice and handy here. Bit of a surprise. We don't need to Wasteland this now. We don't know the top card of our library. Another Spell Pierce. Well, we're going to take them off of some mana here. Going to crack in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can go and get a Tundra here. And then cast a little bit more power onto the board with this Murktide Regent. So we have a 2-turn clock now. We've got a Spell Pierce to kind of hold back another turn that our opponent has. I think we're doing alright here. Alright, let's snap in the friends. We don't need to play anything out here. We can just hold these 3 cards in hand. We have lethal. Playing a forest. So they could play something like a One Ring just to get protection for the turn. Yep, but we just say no and win the game instead. Alright. That felt pretty good. Clarion Conqueror doing a lot of work. What is this? This will shut down like Kozilek's commands and potentially the One Ring a little bit. We definitely want this Wasteland. The Consign to Memories look very good here. The Force of Negation also has some useful text involved. Daze is not really where I want to be in this matchup. They're going to have a lot of mana. Now obviously we're trying to keep them off of that mana, but it's not always going to work. Meddling Mage gives us a really useful tool in this matchup because we don't have to fear like the big Emrakul hits or anything, because we can just say you don't get to have that, which is interesting. The Spell Piercers were pretty good there to stop the early stuff. But now our opponent knows about them, they're going to be more able to play around them. So I think we're going to look at something like this. And then we need one more cut. Kind of tempted to cut this Roiling Dragonstorm. I think that's probably the one because we want to be able to kill the Reclaimer. Maybe we don't need all of these Prismatic Endings. But if our opponent's got something like Defense Grid, which is quite likely we're going to want the Prismatic Endings. Alright. We can always Brainstorm stuff back in. That's the joy of playing a blue deck. You kind of just have this little free button you can press every now and then to fix your hand. I do not like this hand. Wasteland is obviously good, but Mystic Sanctuary coming in tapped is pretty slow. I think we can do better on a 6. Have an answer for a Reclaimer. We can stop the One Ring with like the Clarion Conqueror. I think this is fine, and I'm going to bin off the Murktide Regent for now. We're not really putting a lot of stuff into our graveyard. I would like to keep making land drops. This represents a Surveil land as well. It's going to be a Reclaimer. Green Sun Zenith. Okay, so we can't actually kill this with a Prismatic Ending. Wait, they failed to find. That feels like an awkward misclick from our opponent. I'll play out the Flooded Strand. This can get us a Meticulous Archive, or we can fire off a Plow if that's what we want to do. A Cloud Post. Looking for a Wasteland. A stock up. Are we stocking up? This can dig us towards a Wasteland later, but it's not really what I'm about right now. I'm going to put this in the graveyard. We can always get it back with a Mystic Sanctuary later on. Force of Negation. That is a handy one. I will deploy this Tundra. Let's play a Meddling Mage. What am I going to name here? It's probably the One Ring, or it could be Khan the Great Creator, because we have the One Ring covered. They can draw one card with it. Right, I think it's Khan. Because that's also the thing that gets them their removal that can deal with any of our creatures. I would have liked to have had a blue card here. Obviously, I think playing out the Mage here is better than just sitting on the Force of Negation. But we'll see. It's going to be a Dismember on our poor little guy. Alright, I guess we named the right thing. So the Clarion Conqueror can shut off the Khan. A Dryad Arbor. So it was in their hand. We already deduced that. What are they going to name with this? We have a Prismatic Ending that can answer this if we need to. Wasteland. Sure. So if we draw a Wasteland, then we'll get rid of this and Wasteland them. Otherwise, we're just playing the Conqueror. Okay. This also gives us a blue card for our Force of Negation, which is pretty big news. In comes a dragon. Let's carry on. They can't tap their Dryad Arbor for mana now, which I think is going to cause them some issues here. Feels like they were going to play the One Ring this turn. A Disruptor Flute. Sure. Is this going to name Wasteland as well? Force of Will. Okay, well, we don't have Force of Will right now. So that's kind of okay as well. Another Force of Negation. So we can just hold up double Force of Negation and beat down with our guy. If at some point we draw the Wasteland, then we fire off the Prismatic Ending. I think this Dryad Arbor should be coming in for damage since they can't tap it for mana. No, they disagree. I'm going to attack here. We can Brainstorm on our opponent's turn. This way we can just hold up the resources we have and we don't need to commit anything. Like, we're already ahead on board. This deck definitely suffers not having So Micah Spawn. Alright, let's cast a Brainstorm. I found a Wasteland. That's something I'm interested in. We don't really need the Plows right now. Put them both on top. A Disruptive Flute. Am I fighting over this? I think I am, just in case something goes awry here. Let's get the Wasteland down. We can take our opponent off of green mana, or we can take them off of Cloud Post. An interesting proposition. It should probably be the Cloud Post, but I think it's not 100% certain what's the best way of doing that. Obviously, we don't know what our opponent's got in hand. That can change things a lot. So we can plow the Arbor if we need to, if we're somehow losing our Clarion Conqueror. Alright, our opponent just scooped it up, and normally, if you're playing like a relatively grindy blue deck, playing a matchup like Cloud Post isn't really where you want to be. However, tools like Clarion Conqueror and the Meddling Mage are interesting here, and have definitely helped us here. Now, I'm not going to lie, the Wasteland pretty clutch there. We had Wastelands in the first game too. But the fact that our creatures are disruptive is a big deal here. Okay, we're on the board. Let's go to round 4. Okay, we've got Brainstorm in here. Force, just in case something spooky happens. We've also got the Spell Pierce. I like this hand quite a lot. We haven't got to do much in the way of stocking up so far today. We'd quite like to cast Roiling Dragonstorm and bounce it one time there. That'd be fun. Blooming Marsh. Lotus Petal. Okay, our opponent is up to no good. What flavour of no good is this? Black and white. Cabal Ritual. Is this Necro Dominance? I think it is. Get rid of the stock up, that's for later. Okay. I will deploy this Polluted Delta holding up Spell Pierce. We can go and get Meticulous Archive. I think sitting on the Spell Pierce is going to do a lot of work for us. So we can get the Archive. Meddling Mage. Okay, our opponent might just scoop to this. Alright, our opponent did scoop to this. So this is a matchup where having these Meddling Mages and our sort of disruptive things are really good. This is what we've been waiting for all league. Okay, Necro Dominance. I don't mind having access to a Wasteland. Love having this Lavinia. Force of Negation's obviously very good. The Consign to Memory can stop the Necro Dominance trigger and buy us a turn where maybe we get to Prismatic Ending it away. So we're not going to need Swords to Plowshares here. It's not really what this is about. The Prismatic Ending does have some text here. We want to keep all our counter magic. I think that's a given. Maybe we can shave on a threat here. That's probably going to leave us needing one more card to cut, isn't it? So Clarion Conqueror is going to stop their Petals and their Chrome Moxes. That feels pretty good. Stock Up can dig into free permission, so I think that's probably better than the Roiling Dragonstorm, even though I really want to cast this card. I also think the frame of this card is quite nice, which is unusual. I don't usually like a lot of alternate frames. Anyway, I'm going to take the Roiling Dragonstorm out, I think. So we need to keep a hand that passes the Force of Will check. But we have 6 forces in our deck. Alright, this hand shouldn't really beat what they're doing. Our opponent's mulligans. Okay, we have double Force of Will. Sorry, we have 2 Force of Wills. Maybe it'll be Force of Will into Force of Will. We'll see. But we also have the Meddling Mage. So I'm feeling pretty solid about this one. Let's see if our opponent's going on turn 1 or not. Blooming Marsh. It's going to be a Dark Ritual. It's a Duress. Sure, they can take one of our Force of Wills. That leaves us with Force of Will and Meddling Mage. So we have a blue card for our Force of Will. I would like to find another blue card so we can at least get this Meddling Mage down, because it's going to be a pretty big game to do that. Play out Polluted Delta. We go get Meticulous Archive when the time is right. A Dark Ritual. Okay, this feels like our opponent has like a Pact of Negation or something. We have to fight over this. They might just have another copy of Necrodominance, and they're going to go next turn. So let's try and dig our way into another Meddling Mage. Prismatic Ending. No, that's not what we're about right now. A Wasteland. Alright, I will snap that off. It interacts with our opponent. That's all we need to do. Alright, they're just scooping it up. Yeah, Meddling Mage really good. Okay, 4 rounds in. We've clawed it back to a 2-2 record after going 0-2 to begin with. So there's now a positive record on the line. So let's see if we can get some Meddling Mage action to win the final round. Alright, Island Ponder. Fine way to play Magic the Gathering. I will keep this. Once Upon a Time from our opponent. Are they Eldrazi, Cloud Post? Okay, we're looking at Cloud Post again. An Urza's Tower. Understood. Another Force of Will isn't too bad for us to have access to. We don't need basics in this matchup, so it doesn't really matter which fetch land we play out here. So we're not going to ponder, we're going to hold up a Spell Pierce so we can nail this One Ring I'm expecting to see. There it is. Let's go and get our Tundra. Spell Pierce, here we go. Does feel good, paying 1 mana to counter a 4 mana spell. Can I have a Wasteland, please? No. Let's ponder into a Wasteland. That would also be good. These are not Wastelands, but the Spell Pierce might come in handy. But we already have double Force. Alright, I think this is a shuffle for me. I'm going to play this Mystic Sanctuary tapped, so that we can play the Clarion Conqueror next turn. We don't have to counterspell a One Ring here. We technically don't have to counterspell a Karn either. Cloud Post. What are they doing here? A Talisman. That's okay. An Expedition Map. I don't think that's what we're counterspelling here. Okay. So now we're just going to make some dragons. I don't want to play this and make our opponent think about red spells. I think I do. This also means that we don't use our fetch land up, so we have it up for potential brainstorms in the future. So we'll make our Clarion Conqueror. That's going to shut off their Talisman of Unity and Expedition Map, so they're going to crack the map in response. Yep. What are they going to find? Probably another Cloud Post would be my guess, or an Urza's Tower. Okay, but we've taken off a little bit of mana here. Would love to find some Wastelands here. Meddling Mage. You are certainly an interesting beast. I think I'm just going to play the Clarion Conqueror out first, though. It deals more damage. It shuts off multiple things, so it shuts off Karn and the One Ring. And then we just have 2 ways of protecting against Kozilek's Command in our hand. And then next turn we can play the Meddling Mage naming Kozilek's Command. And then our opponent's going to be struggling to deal with our stuff. This feels like a big K command. We're going to pitch the Murktide to the Force of Will to counter it. What is this? Eldrazi Confluence. You may choose 3. +3 -3 until end of turn. They're going to kill all of our guys. Alright. Where's this card from? I don't know if I've seen this one before. Okay, so let's just say no to this. So we're going to make a spawn and also kill both of our guys. That seems pretty good for 4 mana. And now they've got a turn where they can play something big, and hopefully our Force of Will checks it. We'd like to find another blue card, so we can play Meddling Mage holding up Force of Will next turn, but Ugin, Eye of the Storms. Okay, let's just say no to the Ugin. Because if they cast any colourless spell, they get to kill our other guy. Right, we've used a lot of resources to get to this stage now. And our opponent's still got 3 cards in hand. If we get a Wasteland, if we hit this, we take them off of 4 mana. We hit this, we take them off of 3 mana. So I think if we draw a Wasteland, we're probably hitting the Planar Nexus here. Oh no, not another spell. No, they thought about it. Let's get the Archive down. We do not need a land right now. I don't believe the Prismatic Ending on this Talisman of Unity is going to be particularly helpful. I think our opponent is going to overcome what we're doing here. Urza's Cave. So this pay 3 and it becomes any other land in Institute for any land. Okay. A Murktide Regent. This is a good card for us. What fresh hell is this going to be? K command. Okay, let's just make the biggest Murktide we can. Let's try Big Daddy Murktide. So we're 1 damage shy of killing our opponent next turn. We could have fired off a Prismatic Ending just to get the 1 additional point of damage, but it felt like they were going to be interacting with us in some manner. Is this going to be another Cloud Post, or are they in Ivugin time? Whilst I think our deck is going to be better against these Cloud Post style decks than a lot of other sort of slower blue decks, I still don't think that it's going to be a slam dunk matchup by any stretch of the imagination. If they play Yavimaya, it does give us access to a 4th colour for Prismatic Ending. So here is oh, no. They looked like they were going to cast a spell when we went to attacks earlier, which is why I didn't think it was worth burning this Prismatic Ending just to make our Murktide Regent 1 bigger, because I'm not expecting the Clarion Conqueror to make it around the table. And maybe we can hit something more important with this Prismatic Ending, like some kind of ensnaring bridge or something along those lines. Alright, so here's the Kate command. They're getting rid of our Murktide. Alrighty. 7 Eldrazi spawn tokens. So that's just a tutor off of Ivugin straight up. So these happen 3. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So they need to find... Okay, 40, so they can just tutor for Emrakul now. And we're not going to beat the Emrakul, I'll tell you that much. We are not going to have any permanents left. It's an Ulamog. I think that's also equally bad for us. But they had the Emrakul if they wanted it. Alright, so Wasteland, Lavinia, Consigns, Forces. These are the things we want. What did we take out last time? Dazes probably weren't very good. Spell Pierce, certainly not an ideal one. Maybe it's the final round. We'll leave with the Roiling Dragonstorm. They've got more things to hit with Prismatic Ending than the other deck did. I guess we don't know if we need the plows as much. Maybe I'll take out the plow and leave the stock up in. Just keep 1 plow. I don't know if they've got reclaimers, but the Prismatic Ending is more flexible. Meddling Mage, pretty good. Consign, pretty good. Wasteland, obviously very good. So I will keep this one. I think I'm just going to lead off on a ponder here. Looking for more Wastelands. Stock up is kind of like a thing for later that I'm not really into right now. It's a really good way of digging, but I think we're just going to shuffle this. We just want Wastelands, really. Meddling Mage is a tricky one because we don't necessarily know what we need to hit with it. Because they have a lot of payoffs. If we name the wrong one, then it might not do anything. Which is kind of the trade-off with Meddling Mage. When you're against a deck like Necro Dominance, where they have 1 card that matters, or like Show and Tell, it becomes very easy to leverage a Meddling Mage to just completely break the game wide open. Whereas, in a match like this, where they've got the One Ring, and Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, and Karn, there's a lot of stuff to be fearful of. Now, we haven't seen the Karn. They might not have a Karn in there. But if we name the Ugin the Spirit Dragon, then we don't have to worry about the cast trigger on our Meddling Mage. But obviously that's a thing for later that we need to be concerned with, and the Consigned memory can pick that up, including its trigger. A lot of things to think about depending on how our opponent plays this one out. Planar Nexus. They spent a long time thinking about which land was the best one to play out here. It's going to snipe this down straight away. This stops them getting 4 mana on turn 2. Playing a Nexus. Yeah, that's why they played it out. I am going to Brainstorm here because we have a 2-drop that we're looking to cast. Okay, I guess we're putting back both the plows. We don't really want them. Let's get a Tundra. We'll play a Meddling Mage. We'll name the One Ring here. If we can untap and sit on this Consign to Memory, then I feel we'll be in an okay spot. Alright, here is the 4 mana. A Thought Not Seer. This is an interesting one. Like, what are they going to take from us? They take the plow, that's really annoying. I think I will just reluctantly counter this. If we had mana up, we could do things differently. But I think we just have to take our lumps there. So we have access to a Consign to Memory, which can stop that, or we can just plow it. Basic Forest. What are we doing here? Another one. Spelunking. When this enchantment enters, draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you put a cave, you may gain 4 life. Lands you control enter untap. Okay, sure. It's like an explore with extra text. So they can get untapped Cloudpost here. Interesting, not seen this used before in Legacy Cloudpost. Ancient Stirrings, love this card. I've not seen this particular art for it though. It's like a green impulse for 1 mana. Pretty darn good. Kozilek's Command. Alright. A Disruptor Flute. That's fine. What are they going to name here? Consign to Memory is a likely thing that they can name. Depending on what they name, we have the Prismatic Ending to deal with it. Wasteland. Okay, that's fine. If we draw a Wasteland, then obviously we'll Prismatic Ending this. Stock up. I think it's correct to stock up here. If we miss on land, we can be in trouble. Okay, I will take this land. And I will take... Is it a Force or is it a Ponder? I think it's probably just a Ponder. Play the land, we get to bash, and then we have the counter spell for the Kozilek's Command. Next turn we can Ponder. Looking for... At this point, Wastelands don't even feel that amazing because our opponent's just got so much mana. Another Spelunking, that's fine. I don't believe they're going to put in any caves. They have that Urza's Cave. I think that's a cave, isn't it? So that can gain them 4 life. Alright, they're not doing anything with the rest of their turn there. So we've got this big Kozilek's Command we need to worry about. But we have that covered. Let's cast a Ponder, see if we can find a Wasteland. Did not find a Wasteland. Did find a Clarion Conqueror. And a stock up as well. We only get 1 of these in our hand right now. I do like these cards though. Right, I'm going to bury the Conqueror and then put the stock up in hand. Just need our opponent to have a blank 1 time. But obviously they've got some cards in hand. We know one of them is Kozilek's Command. We have that covered. It's what happens after that that is the potential problem. Feels like they're leaving up a land to play around Daze. They're leaving up quite a lot of mana here. I'm going to replicate it once so that we can still have access to a plow if we need it for something. Alright, so we managed to get through that Kozilek's Command. Yeah, this is... Our opponent is doing a lot better than our previous Cloudpost opponent did. I think they are odds on to win this one, but it's not impossible that we can get there. Alright, let's get this stock up on the go. Okay. A blue card for Force of Will is handy. The Wasteland. I don't know if we're doing Wasteland stuff right now. We could take the Brainstorm and the Murktide. I think that's probably for the best. Right, let's get a little bit of chip damage in. I would like to Brainstorm away some of these white cards. Right, our opponent didn't do anything on our end step. That is a big help to us. I imagine one of the cards on our opponent's hand at this point is the One Ring. Hopefully 3 of the cards on our opponent's hand are the One Ring. That would be the ideal. But it looks like they've got something here. Plains, 2 cards left in hand. Talisman of Unity, don't care about that. Okay, so we can attack with our Meddling Mage here. So I could Brainstorm, or I could just save this as our blue card and just deploy the Murktide Regent and kill our opponent next turn. I think that's the safest line here. Right, we got a Force of Will, sorry, a Force of Negation. Our opponent maybe only have one card that matters here. I suspect, alright, we tied up the match. Meddling Mage, I think, was an absolute house there. Obviously, we don't know that for sure, but it did feel like it was. And that's another good reason why I don't really like the Spell Piercers here. We really didn't see much in the way of creatures, though. Maybe I'll bring back a Spell Pierce and go lower on the Plows. Doesn't feel like they're doing Elvish Reclaimer things. But if I edge completely off of them, then I know that they're going to end up doing that. Like, they have the Thought-Knots there, which is something I wouldn't mind trying to kill. There's his tower. Okay, it feels like our opponent might be trying to get 4 mana on turn 2, which is just a thing that people are allowed to do in Legacy. Can I ponder, please? We just get Tundras. It doesn't really matter our mana base here. Let's get the best lands. Alright, I like these cards. Not a big fan of the Meticulous Archive. We're going to shuffle that one away anyway. So we don't have to worry about turn 2 copy of the One Ring here. And then we can follow up with a Meddling Mage. And then work our way to stock up. Once Upon a Time. Cavern of Souls. Okay. So you're telling me Thought-Knots here is a thing that we have to worry about. There's this tower. Are we... Like, we're definitely shuffling our library. I think I'll get a Tundra with this one. So we can play this Meddling Mage here. And we can name Thought-Knots here to kind of make this cavern irrelevant. I think that is okay. And then we can untap with Spell Pierce, Force of Negation, and then we can Brainstorm our opponent's end step. A Glimmer Post. So I don't have any big mana going yet. This could be a Talisman. That's fine if it is. We can snag that with a Clarion Conqueror later on. It could be a Disruptive Flute. It is a Disruptive Flute. We don't have a Wasteland right now. I'm not going to fight over this. We can Prismatic Ending it. If we spend a counterspell on this, then we end up sometimes just getting 0 value for our counterspell there. Obviously, we immediately draw a Wasteland, because that is how Magic the Gathering works. I'll play this so we have access to a bunch of different options. We're going to try and Brainstorm if we don't... Well, we're almost certainly going to Brainstorm regardless here, but maybe we hardcast a Force of Negation. It's a possibility. There is a Cavern of Souls. They did name Eldrazi. I would like to Brainstorm here. Another Meddling Mage is pretty good. I guess we're going to put back the Wasteland because we're not doing that right now, are we? And is it the Clarion Conqueror? I think it's the Conqueror. I could draw this Conqueror. Or I could Meticulous Archive right now. I think I want the Conqueror. Let's play our Meddling Mage. What am I most worried about here? Probably Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Or I could name Kozilek's Command, but we have that covered with our hand. Eye of the Storms is the new one, isn't it? Let's get rid of that. Now we have Forces here. So we'll crack this for Meticulous Archive in our opponent's end step. Echoing Deeps. This is just going to be a colourless untapped land. It's a cave though, so it works with that spelunking spell they've got. Alright, Meticulous Archive. Yes, I will just keep counter spells. I will bash. I will play this Clarion Conqueror. That shuts off the One Ring. Which is something we haven't got named right now. Okay. This is going alright for us. I could stock up here. I don't hate stocking up. And then we'll go to attacks first. See if we have to use any resources in our attack step. We did not. Right. Let's stock up. I will take... do we just want more and more counter spells? I think we probably need to address their mana situation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If they play a Planar Nexus, they get 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana. That is a lot of mana. We just need to survive one more turn here, though. So it should probably just be the Force. We can't Prismatic Ending this because we don't have the colours, and obviously that just goes away. So I guess we're just taking Force blue card and just having the most amount of interaction possible. We just need to make it through this one turn cycle. Alright, we managed to beat Cloudpost twice with a relatively dirty blue deck. And we finished with a positive record. Alright, I thought the experiment was a complete failure to begin with, if I'm honest with you. But the back half of this league really rallied it and showed that some of the tools we have are incredibly powerful. So let's talk about the deck. So Meddling Mage here was actually really good. Like, it single-handedly could just say no to the Necrodominance deck. That was really good. And the Clarion Conqueror was pretty good at jamming some stuff up. Now, where we come undone is when we're playing against decks that look a little bit like ours, but they have just generically good stuff instead of these like interactive pieces for combo decks. You know, so like the deck that was Esper playing like Barragoyfs and it had a bunch of hand disruption and stuff, and Orcish Bowmasters. That was really gonna always be a bad time for us, and it very much was. I think maybe we could do with a little more help against some decks like that, or some of the temporary decks. Maybe we need a little bit more removal in our 75. Doesn't have to be in the main deck. We could maybe chuck in another piece of removal in our sideboard, possibly over a Containment Priest. But I do like the sort of disruptive beaters plan. We're kind of almost playing Hate Bears. Another thing today, Spell Pierce looked very good. I was quite impressed with how much work this done for us today. I always do enjoy casting the old Spell Pierce. The Daze was something that we boarded out quite a lot. Now, we would have been grateful for it in some situations, but maybe this is a flex slot that we could turn into some removal. Roiling Dragonstorm, we never cast, we never drew it. We boarded it out a little bit. I don't think this is kind of where we want to be. I think stock up is better, but sometimes being 2 mana on the curve is relevant. And the fact that we get to bounce it and maybe reuse it later on is quite handy too. So, all in all, this deck I think is alright. You could definitely innovate upon the space a little bit more. Meddling Mage does require you to know what you're naming against different decks. So you would need to have a reasonable amount of legacy experience so you can recognise what a deck is doing as soon as possible. But unsurprisingly, I play quite a lot of legacy, so I can name stuff with some degree of accuracy, I'd like to think. But yeah, the deck just seemed fine. You know, we're just sort of crashing in with some like smallish guys that are disruptive, and it's a tried and tested method over the many years of Magic the Gathering. And it is going to come unstuck, like I said, when we play against people who are just running cards that are pound for pound better. But it did feel like that we made our Cloudpost matchup way better. Like, normally, if I was playing a deck that looked a little bit like this, but let's say we just had some, like, fairish creatures here, or let's say we were playing that Esper deck that beat us in one of the early rounds. If we were playing that into Cloudpost, I would just feel terrible, because a Cloudpost deck would definitely just overcome me at some point. Whereas being able to say, okay, let's just shut off a couple of things. You know, you don't get to activate the One Ring because of this. You don't get to your Planeswalkers because of this either. This can stop them casting the Ugin the Spirit Dragon or whatever, or the Kozilek's Commander. We can actually just lock them out of the game and just have 1 or 2 counter spells to fill the gaps of the things that we're not naming or disrupting with our existing permanents. So yeah, big fan of that. Also, I like Lavinia too. I did even think about playing a more human-centric build. So you have Lavinia and Containment Priest as main deck creatures. I'm not really sure if that deck would be particularly good, but maybe I'll try it at some point. If you've got any thoughts on what that might look like, drop them in the comments below, and let me know what you thought of this deck. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbo Depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.